Greetings! This is the Mega Macat calling in a fighting game fun episode with a new bit of software I acquired, an old PlayStation Classic that I wanted to share with my viewers, which ones I have. And basically, this is something I've wanted to do for a while, was show some of those classic old school video games that I hadn't had a chance to get around to play. But this one is hands down one of the best. And I apologize if I'm talking over the intro video, but I do kind of need to explain what the hell's going on, don't I? So in the arcades, many of you may recognize this. This is indeed Rival Schools Unite by Fate. And you may also know that there was a sequel called Project Justice on the Dreamcast. Now, a lot of people would probably be saying, well, why aren't I doing Project Justice? It's the more graphically impressive game. Truth of the matter is I don't like Project Justice as much as I like this game. I admit Project Justice was a bit more developed graphically, but I felt that right down to its core, it just played far worse. And that was mostly the fault of the Dreamcast controller. Fair's fair. I mean, the game itself was great, but on the Dreamcast controller, it just felt like crap. If I ever do play that game, I'm probably going to be doing it with an emulator rather than with the actual Dreamcast, simply because I hate playing with the Dreamcast controller. It sucks. Of course, I say the same thing about the N64, and I still stand by that. The N64 was a very innovative controller that was horribly designed. Still say the best controller of all time might be either the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 4. Depends on your opinion. But on that matter. So, let's go ahead and we will set this up. And other settings. Screen mode, full screen smoothing on. Okay. Yeah, everything's good. Okay. So, what is Rival Schools? Well, it's technically it's a 3D fighter that uses a very it's sort of an upgrade to the Street Fighter EX and similar engines, in that it uses a three-dimensional playing field while still relying mostly on 2D planes, with just some gimmicks thrown in. But, as you can see, shortcut no, it uses a very different control scheme. It is light and heavy punches, light and medium kicks, and then you have your super attacks, and that's pretty much it. Very similar in a way to like the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, or some of the more recent Capcom fighting games, like Marvel vs. Capcom. Similar to that, it also bears a similarity to the Tekken series, but very different, as you'll soon see. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to play some one player. I'm going to try and do the at least the story mode or part up. Now here's our roster. We have we have what looks to be at least 16 characters. So each of these represents a different high school. And this is one of the reasons I love this game. Anyone who knows me knows that I love fighting games, and that one of the things I love about fighting games is their quirky and unusual cast of characters. The sort of absolutely crazy repertoire that they have with those cast of characters. And this is one of my favorite examples of it. Starting off, we have a delinquent, a schoolgirl, and a wannabe Japanese hipster. Then we have a baseball player, a volleyball player, and a soccer player. Then we have a giant African-American missionary, a obviously overpumped cheerleader, and I'm not quite sure what he wants to be other than the fact that he's a football player. Then we have a psychotic delinquent, a bicycle fighter, and a motorcycle fighter, and a wannabe sumo. Then we have a nurse, and we have a martial arts instructor. And then there's also several hidden characters down here as well, including Sakura from Street Fighter, one of the instructors, a gang leader, his sister, and then we also have the principal of the evil high school, and the guy who's actually running the show. So yeah, I don't know where to begin with that, other than, what the hell? Now, all these characters have stories, and all of their stories have connections to each other. So, we're starting out here, and, one of the high schools got attacked, there were several students injured, a female clerk disappeared, and then, all of a sudden, a kid named Batsu shows up and begins investigating the case. So, what's his story? Well, the clerk happened to be his mom, and he suspects that the person who kidnapped her might have been his dad. Hinata actually shows up in the Street Fighter comics and other stuff in relation to Sakura. But that is more or less a sort of structural basis for the game, is each of these characters has their stories. Like, Tiffany and her group are all American exchange students living in Japan. And then, these guys are, yeah, whatever. You know what, can I get to beating their faces in? So basically, the story it's fairly honest in the fact that the story isn't all that complicated, but by the same token, the story is also kind of, it's not bad, especially for a fighting game, but it's not gonna win any awards. Where this game really shines is in its characters and its fighting. And how is that? Well, because it's good old Capcom awesome. Now, for starters, we have this guy, who is indeed a Shoto clone. He's the Ryu of this game. Now, ironically, Roy, the opponent, is actually a Terry Bogard clone from the King of Fighters series. He's supposed to be a Terry Bogard clone. Not that it's a bad thing, mind you. Now, as you saw earlier, it's light punch, light kick, heavy punch, heavy kick, and you also have your super moves. But you also have team-up moves where you can knock your opponent back and recover damage. And give yourself a bit of a boost. There you go. That can increase your strength or do massive damage, depending upon who you're playing with and who your partner is. Different combinations create massively different results. So, I'm switching over to Hinata. No relation to the Naruto character. Shame, because I love Hinata from Naruto, but... Speaking of which, I will be doing a fighting game fun on the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm series, so we can look into that down the road. But for now, we're going to be doing this. Come here. Now here we go. Double team. Super double fireballs. Now I will admit, if there's one thing that this game has a bit of a failure in, it's that it starts out way too easily. The difficulty will ramp up, and it will ramp up fast. So you can expect there to be a lot of difficulty as time goes on. Yeah, so basically, one of the high schools, which is like a super high ranking school and all that junk, attacked the other high schools for unknown reasons, and now we know who we're going to go beat the crap out of. But first, we got to go beat the crap out of some delinquent jerks. And also, Batsu is a bit of a jerk. He's definitely like the hot-blooded character in this series, with Hana being the more reasonable, if not quite as reasonable as some of the other characters. But on the other hand, the two characters we're about to fight, one is a blade-wielding sociopath, and the other is a sumo wrestler with an eating disorder. So, take that how you will. Now that being said, each character has their standard moves. Like I said, Batsu is a Shoto clone. He's got the Hurricane Kick, he's got the Fireball, and he's got the Uppercut. And that's not bad. I mean, it's clearly, very effective for him as a character, but there are some characters with vastly difference. There is another character who is almost brutally a Shoto clone. In fact, one of the characters, one of the instructor characters, is actually not just a Shoto clone, but an absolute and undeniable ripoff of Ryu or Ken. And in fact, even the style they use is supposedly an offshoot from that fighting style. style, even though these worlds are supposedly connected, nobody ever proves that. Now this big dude's whooping my rear. As I said, the difficulty does ramp up quite significantly, so it is possible to lose pretty badly if you're not prepared. But as you can see, it can also be turned around. It's mostly because Gan is such a powerhouse. He'll just stomp through most people if he can land a hit. He's not fast, but he'll hurt you if he lands a blow. Ooh, that sucked. That sucked. Oh, and he grabbed me. He grabbed me. That really blew. Now you do have a side dodge, which I just showed you. It works on most techniques, but will not work on that specifically. Also, I'm probably going to lose this because I'm not actually that good with Hinata. Probably should have gone with Kaiosuke. I'm actually way better. But I don't know. Maybe I still have a chance. There we go. So yeah, Hinata's essentially a cross between a Chun-Li and Sakura. Essentially, she like mixes moves from both characters, in that she has the rapid fire punches, and the spinning kick, but she also has the uppercut. So. So yeah, there's a big story here, and I don't want to spoil too much of it, but basically there's all this big complicated mess involving this guy, the long-haired pretty boy with the sword, and the Justice High School. And now basically I'm going to have to beat the crap out of these two guys. There he is! The dude with the glasses is the Ryu Shoto clone ripoff, in just the most blatant, obvious way. I mean, when he gets into the match, you'll see what I mean. He is such a blatant, obvious Shoto ripoff. And I think that's intentional. It is Capcom's game, after all. Now, that being said, every character has their strengths and weaknesses, and they're fairly well balanced, like any good game should be. There are, however, some characters that have notable problems, such as this big guy. Now, in this case, part of the issue is that he's a boss character, so inherently he's going to be strong. Oh, see, Shoto cloned me. Yeah, and it is possible to win that. Win that and winning it gives you a different ending. He's very, very difficult, though. That guy is super powerful. And the final boss fight is also super powerful and super difficult, so. Now, these guys are from another school, but they're friends with Hinata, so don't know how that works. Now, getting back to the actual combat mechanics here. Each character has certain tropes from like Street Fighter that they use, but they do it in unique ways. Natsu here is actually a sort of a keep-away player with a bit of Shoto clone thrown in, but as you'll see, her moveset is vastly different in that she's sort of a... I'm trying to think of the proper... Yeah, she's sort of a setup character who also can do zone. She has moves that work best when she's using them to set you up for, for other attacks, but she also has moves that make her very, very difficult to stop because they can allow her to attack you from a massive range. On the other hand, the same thing goes for certain characters like Batsu, who his number one super is that massive energy bullet. So, in fact, he calls it the guts bullet. So, oh, nice grab. They're all throws in this game, but they are very hard to pull off. You have to be in perfect positioning. However, whatever position you're in does a different throw. So if you're on the front or the side or the back, it does a different throw. Which means that certain characters can can set themselves up for powerful throws, which will do a lot of damage. See, here's her team up, which is the baseball of doom. I like her because her fighting style is very much just a sort of rush in and pound you type thing. And she's very good at it too. Oh, she counted. Now there is a note that some of the super moves can be interrupted. See, like that. You can interrupt certain moves with other moves. So there is a balance there to learn which moves can interrupt what, just through priority. Also, certain moves can be very difficult to intercept or block, so you have to know which character moves can be stopped. Like this guy, he has baseball bat techniques that are very hard to counter because of the insane priority they have. On the other hand, his range is limited. He does have a long-range attack, but it's his weakest attack, so it doesn't do as much damage. Whereas you can do tons of damage. He also has like relatively low stamina. So it is a matter of finding the right combination of characters, techniques, and moves, and trying to break through. So yeah, like I said, one of the things about this game is the difficulty in this game ramps up enormously. And that's one of the few things I complain about is this game didn't have a good difficulty curve. On the other hand, with certain characters it is easier. I will say that Batsu and Hinata is not my favorite combination. I would actually have gone with Batsu and Kaosuke as a general rule. Also, I would have preferred to use... I also could have used... Well, there's actually several of the boss characters I'm really fond of. Now that being said, I still think this is one of the best of the old school Capcom fighting games. Mostly because I think it's one of the ones that has the best overall structure. It's got a great story mode, great versus mode, and there's a bonus disc that came with it on the PlayStation. If you do get it, make sure you get the extra disc because it has all kinds of additional features that make the game even better. My only complaint about the bonus disc was it didn't really add as much as I thought it should. I thought it could have added a little bit more, including like additional story content. But all the same, it is a great addition to the game and definitely worth the price. Okay, so won that round, and switching out to Hinata, even though I know it's probably a bad idea. Now, I just wanted to give you a brief rundown on the game, and I might do more on this later on if anybody's interested. But the basic structure of this game is essentially a slightly modified version of most Street Fighter games, although the control scheme is actually taken more out of the SNK playbook with some additions to make it more friendly to the Street Fighting crowd. And it has that great balance that Capcom is known for. Although I do kind of wish they would have improved it to give it a little bit more punch, you know? There are some characters who I think they could have had more fun with, and I do think the fact that some of the characters weren't as developed as they could have been is a bit of a shame. Still, I think we'll leave it here for now that I've given you a basic rundown, and I'm actually going to pop out of this and show you one or two other character groups so you can get an idea of how the other groups play. But at its core, I think the best thing about this game is the sheer variety of characters and just how quirky they are. There's also a couple of fights where you fight brainwashed versions of your former opponents or other friends, and it's very interesting that they go out of their way to give you these various options.
Round one, fight!
That being said, I am returning to the menu, and I'm going to do some extra mode, which, whoops, sorry. You can also watch the computer fight if you want to stay the fighting styles, or just as I guess they set that up as an attract mode for like stores, which I can understand that.
Round one, fight!
But I actually do have two controls hooked up, but for some reason it doesn't recognize the second controller. But that's okay. So I'm going to go to one player game real quick and show you one of the other character groups. Sakura. There it is, and Hayato. Sakura is, of course, from Street Fighter, but this other guy, Hayato, is unique to this game. And I love the fact that he fights with like a bamboo sword, which apparently, I guess at some point in Japan, those were actually still used for discipline and junk. I know that when I was in martial arts years and years and years ago, I actually did see them have those bamboo swords, but they weren't used for that. They're actually used for their intended purpose for practice. Mostly by the kendo guys, but... Now, as you can see, I'm playing as Sakura, and she actually has all of her moves. In fact, all of them. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she actually has the Sengoku Satsu, although it's modified here to match the control scheme of this game. But yeah, I believe she's got a version of the Sengoku Satsu. Damned. Alright, I've had enough. I love that he's pounding on her to get her all charged up, and then fire! And she still has that super short-range Hadouken that she had in the Street Fighter series, which actually is pretty cool because it means it gives her an extra offensive option she might not have otherwise in a game like this. It's super short, but of course if it lands, it does additional damage. So now, on to the other dude. He's actually a gym teacher in this game. I'm thinking, God, if gym teachers had been that cool in my school days, I might actually have given a crap.
Round 2.
But check this dude out. He's like, yeah, I'm awesome, and you will obey me for it. Yeah, he even has a punch that gives him like super armor. He also steals a few moves from Andy Bogart, apparently, but that's okay. And that's one of his supers. His other one is awesomeness. You will obey. Push-ups now. Die. Now, if you pick two characters who aren't associated with a storyline per se, the game just throws you into a set of random fights. So I'll do one more fight with these two, and then I'll call it a night. But I wanted to share with you this. I'm actually doing another one shortly that I'll show you as well. Because this is one of those games from my childhood that I still adore with a passion. Excuse me. Pardon me. That dude just looks evil. Oh, hey, me. Now, admittedly, graphically, this game is still way, way outdated. I mean, no denying, on the PlayStation, Project Justice certainly looked way better. It was much more advanced for its time, and I'm sad that this series never got another installment. I would have been super pumped for it. Although, ironically, I heard there was supposed to be like a compilation of this, but I never actually saw evidence of it. Now, that being said, I still recommend for fans of great Capcom fighting games, this is definitely worth the time and the money. Sakura, yeah, she only has that one. Apparently, they did not give her the other super moves she has in this game. No, she has them. They just aren't set correctly. Alright, well, anyway, that Sakura's out of the way, so who's my next rival? That's a great freeze frame. Freeze frame on her face. She looks like one of those smiling cat dolls. Now, this guy is so freaking overpowered that it's actually kind of embarrassing. Yet at the same time, his stamina is like abysmal, and some of his moves guarantee that he'll take damage just to deliver it. By the same token, he will hurt you if he gets close enough. And he's powerful as all get out. Oh, under your feet. Under your feet. You knocked that off right now, little lady. Crap. I want to get Sakura's double off. I can't. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's her Shingoku Satsu joke. Apparently, now I got Shingoku Satsu. Yeah, apparently she's not able to do it unless someone holds her opponent down. I do like the fact that this game is not only very easy to play, but has a lot of fun, entertaining, and downright weird characters to play as. My only complaint is that I feel at times the roster was a little bit small, and that's actually fair because at the time it was on the PlayStation, it had a much more limited roster. The sequel, to its credit, had a huge roster by comparison. And I think that's part of the reason why you would see Project Justice ranking higher than this, even though I think this was actually the more fun game to play. Again, that's mostly due to the fault of the Dreamcast controller. I think the Dreamcast controller had a lot of flaws that sort of made games on it really fall apart. So anyway, I just had to not kick my kneecaps in, so I'm done with this. But that'll be it from here, and we'll call it a night. Still, if you're a fan of the old Capcom fighting days, or if you just want a really cool, really quirky 2D fighter, this may not be a bad choice. In fact, it might be the best option you can find in most cases. Oh, and lastly, I forgot about this. I forgot that as part of the title screen and as part of the high score screen, you can actually do a first-person fight with your last opponent, and it doesn't work because you have no idea what you're actually doing. That's why fighting games are never first-person, because they don't work. Alright. Well, anyway, folks, we're going to call that here. Still, like I said, I definitely recommend that if you're interested, you might want to check this out. It's usually available on Amazon or at a used game store fairly commonly. It's getting more rare these days, and sequel Project Justice is equally rare. So if you're interested in that, you might want to look into eBay for it. Otherwise, though, this is the Mega Mat Cat, and I highly recommend you check out this game and other games I may have recommended in my Fighting Game Fun series. More's on the way, actually. I'm actually going to be putting out another one here shortly, but that one's going to be for something even weirder, if you can believe it. I will see you then. Until that time, this is the Mega Mat Cat signing off.